Hey, I'm Duke on Twitch. If you want to support the channel and greensunzenith.com, you can find my Patreon, merch store, and singles store where you can buy singles through TCG Player or Card Hoarder in the video description. If you want to get in contact, you can also find all that info in the description below for things like donation deck lists or just wanting to reach out. Alright, let's get right into it. Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with a Eternal Weekend deck tech with returning Maverick Achilles with Abzan Maverick, which is really cool to see. So Connery, a big thank you for coming back. How are you enjoying Legacy at the moment?
No problem, but it's pretty fun, honestly. When I stopped playing Magic, it was not fun at all, really. It was for like a year or so, and I think the Fiend Artisan build lets you do some fun things, and then I don't know, the meta's not too annoying in Legacy right now, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like although Delver has some pretty powerful cards, it's not over the top where you just feel like you're always behind, which is really nice. So I find Delver's been like a really fun matchup, usually a best of 3 in most cases. And then combo decks aren't too aren't they haven't got many tools recently that have like taken them overboard. So you still have your classic like reanimators or storm, which your typical hate bears usually beat up on as well, which is cool.
Yeah, and I find that, like, I don't know, even though a lot of the new cards are kind of dumb, like in how they're designed, the gameplay isn't actually as bad as it feels like it should be. Like, Beanstalk should be dumb. Like, I mean, and that's the least fun deck I think to play against right now. But even that, we have play against it with Bowmasters and stuff. So, but it's just kind of silly to me that it's a 2-drop that cantrips and then triggers off Forcible for some reason.
Yes.
But whatever.
Yeah, it's always tricky from like a value perspective to trade with Beanstalk with that draw at the start. Especially something like Abrupt Decay, of course, you're already down a card, so
Yeah,
you have to try to maneuver around it or try not to worry about it, but it's obviously pretty tough when the deck's kind of built around it and obviously drawing off it. So
yeah, I played against a deck just real quick that was like, it was like Rug Delve creatures and just Beanstalk. And I'm like, this is the worst way. I crushed them because it's not a good deck, but like, I was like, the fact that this works, right? Because they would just play Beanstalks and play creatures that, you know, that was, oh, it was a domain creatures, I think, whatever.
interesting. Like this,
like, man, this
the
super
Scion, the dragon.
like whatever, like one and things that had like 1 mana and like 5 generic or whatever.
Okay, like
they
Hooting
were just like
Mandrills.
vanilla creatures, basically. They were not. And then, but you know, if you have Beanstalk in play, it's like a 1-drop 5/5 that draws a card when it ETBs. So
Yes.
but it's just not good. Like Maverick's better. You just have a 8/8 Knight, and it doesn't. None of the cards do anything. It was a really weird experience that is only playable because of how weird, like silly Beanstalk is.
Yeah, like I haven't seen Hooting Mandrills in the format for a long time, and to see it back just because of Beanstalk really gives Beanstalk a lot of credit for just how powerful it is.
Pretty, yeah.
Is this, yeah, I guess you return to Orcish Bowmasters, which is kind of nice because I feel like in this deck it's quite good because it's disruption, it's pressure in a way because you typically go pretty wide with it, or at least tall with your token, and then it's great with Fiend Artisan and Grist and Cradle to some extent, so it fits in really nicely.
Yeah.
Have you found it to be like, did you kind of have like a bar and then you were either below it or above it when actually testing it out?
Yeah. To be honest, I knew it was good at first, but I completely, when I first read the card and my friends told me about the card, I just like didn't realize that it ETVs and does the thing. I'm like, that's so insane to me. So like that, because it ETVs to ping a creature or somebody when it, like, that makes it insane because it's good against every deck, really. Like, the only time you don't want it is if they don't draw cards and don't have creatures, which is like lands. Like exactly lands is when it's not great. It's probably like not great against like initiative, but like pretty much every other matchup, it's like, oh yeah, sick. They either draw cards or they or they have something for me to ping.
Yeah, I remember
The only thing, it sucks that it doesn't actually stop people from drawing. That's the like, because
like
it's
Spirit Labyrinth.
yeah, like it's kind of like a medium hate bear. So against like Doomsday and stuff, I wish it was like, obviously if it was legal, that'd be better. But
Yeah, yeah, it's obviously like fantastic with like uh a brainstorm where you get the 4/4 typically. But just yeah, I'm still not used to just like the 2-for-1 power that it is. Like if you take out a DRC or a Delver and then they bolt it, like just the 2-for-1 value, it's not something that Maverick really has. You have a lot of got a lot of 1-for-1 trades, but like Bowmaster just gives you that little edge to like get ahead, which is really nice.
yeah, having them force of will, the Bowmaster, is a good feeling. I think that's kind of what we want to do, is play 2-drops that need to be forced.
Yeah, that's a great point. And especially with us having Mother of Runes and a way to protect it, a lot harder for decks to get rid of it, as opposed to you know some of the mono black or Grixis Delver decks that are playing around with it. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good reason to be playing Abzan right now. Obviously, I think like Grist is just like a Green Sun's target is fantastic, and then you have things like Plague Engineer and Thoughtseize. It's really nice to see the board as well because you have 3 Leyline, 3 Thoughtseize, and then just a bunch of 1-ofs that are obviously good in all different matchups. Do you usually come back to the format and have like, you know, a few like 3-ofs and then work your way back to getting 1-ofs in the deck? Or do you just put a bunch of 1-ofs in the sideboard and kind of go from there?
So the sideboard being 1-ofs is kind of a little bit goofy because it's like it looks like it's 1-ofs, but they're kind of not. Like Endurance is the 4th ley line basically, and Carpet of Flowers and Choke serve the same purpose more or less. Like Gaddock has to be in the board because I wish it was in main. I wish there's room, but it just doesn't work. And then I used to have 2 paths, but now I'm on a Hushbringer because I don't know, I don't like. It's actually really good. I was really impressed with it when I practiced with it. Like you especially with Fiend Artisan, even with just 1 Hushbringer, it comes up more often. But I'd say in general, when I come back into a format, I just look at what other people are playing, and then I try and I like take the core of it, and then I might mess around with it.
Nice.
And, specifically for sideboarding, I just like, I don't know. I don't like some cards. Like I don't want to play Mindbreak Trap. It seems bad to me. I get that it probably is good against Doomsday or something. I don't know, but like, it feels like most combo decks are gonna Thoughtseize you at some point.
Yes. Yeah.
So I know it does work sometimes, but especially when we don't have a lot of interaction that would be in our hand anyways. So it's not like we're overloading them there. We want to overload the board. Which with Fiend Artisan, that's how it plays out. Like you really, I have games where it's like I have a Bowmaster, a Thalia, and like a Hushbringer or some shit against Doomsday, because you just get to activate Fiend Artisan a couple times. But
yeah. Obviously, that's Oracle is an ETB effect. Do you bring Hushbringer in against like initiative decks or like Death and Taxes?
Both of those.
Nice.
It's actually, that's what I mean. Like it actually comes in a fair amount, especially in like the matchups that suck. I think like Doomsday and Death and Taxes, I would argue are like they feel like the worst 2 matchups to me right now.
Yeah, a big shout out to the Maverick Discord who's been saying the same thing about D&T. Just like the value is very hard to keep up with.
Yeah, it's I don't know. You basically have to be really aggressive against them, and Maverick doesn't. I don't know, it doesn't. That's not the way I normally play it.
Yes.
So I have to remind myself to like take bad trades and push through damage because you just cannot like late game. You cannot win against the late game unless you have a Hushbringer and a Mop, and then you're in a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess one thing to note about the sideboard, how I said it's a lot of 1-ofs, and you've come back and just said it's kind of like a bunch of cards that are extra copies of kind of the same thing. And one other note is that obviously we have like Gaddock or Scrib Ranger in the deck, which can be found with Green Suns, so you virtually have 5 copies in the main deck. And then with Fiend Artisan, you also have like multiple ways to grab like the Plague Engineer or the Hushbringer, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Fiend is just so strong in this deck because once you've used your Hierarchs early on, to be able to like trade them away for something a little bit more impactful, especially if like a Bowmaster hasn't taken them out already, that's really nice. And then like minor things, like I've definitely beaten opponents who had Snuff Out and couldn't deal with Fiend Artisan, or against Delver, where they bolt all your creatures and remove them, and then you play just like a 6/6 Fiend Artisan. They're like, okay, I can't really beat this. Yeah, it's a lot more than like just like a kind of like utility creature. It's also just like, I have 2 6/6 Fiend Artisans, and you're just going to be chump blocking until you probably can't answer them, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it's good in that it can be a threat on its own in the late game. But yeah, the amount of times where it's like, I wish I could get a Thalia right now, and you know I have a Green Sun in my hand. And I'm like, that sucks. But Fiend Artisan will get a Thalia, and that is just like, that alone is awesome. Bowmasters similarly, but
definitely. Also, small things like Collector Ouphe against elves does nothing, but then being able to turn that into something like a Bowmaster or a Plague Engineer is really good, and just allows the deck to like pivot a lot quicker. It's usually not as fast as pivoting than say like Death and Taxes, which can like recruit it for something pretty quickly, but usually Maverick just can't pivot as quickly. Ooh, 1 second, we'll be right back. Apologies for that. One change that I can see that you've made online is first off, it's done really well. So you got 2 5-0s and a top 8 in the challenge, which is cool. And it's very slight changes. So here we have 3 Thalia and 1 Ramanap, and then 2 Thalia, 1. Sorry, it is 2 Orcish Bowmaster, 3 Thalia, 1 Ramanap, and then it's 3 Bowmaster, 2 Thalia, 1 Renegade Rallier, and then the same list here. So I have seen a move towards Renegade Rallier over Ramanap, and I assume it's just the speed of it, just being able to get something back. The same turn on turn 3 is really strong, instead of kind of having to untap with Ramanap at times. Also getting back a permanent creature is pretty sweet as well.
yeah, Ramanap or like Ramanap, I kind of want to have in my sideboard for lands because it actually just wins the matchup.
Yeah.
But Renegade Rallier in particular, like it's better in some cases because you can do it immediately, but the other reason is that it kind of turns your Green Sun into being able to find non-green bears when they're dead, which comes up because, you know, if you get a Collector Ouphe and someone dismembers it, right, you can just Green Sun for Rallier and bring it back.
Yes.
Same with like Bowmaster and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't, obviously if they exile it you can't do anything, but that utility as like an option has been pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love that, because the awkward way of doing that is endurancing yourself, which typically you don't really want to do, just so you can Green Suns for the same creature. So like
that, and it like you can't get non-green creatures with it, but if you Green Sun for Rallier, now you can get a non-green creature.
Yes, very
assuming
true.
It's in your graveyard already.
Very true. Yeah, there we go. Like an Orcish Bowmaster. It's a great example.
Yeah.
Usually a card people want to remove ASAP. Yeah, I love that. I do love Rallier, especially with like double Wasteland is obviously like the dream as well.
Yeah.
Or even just being able to ramp against some decks. Like turn 1 Noble, turn 2 Fetch, play Rallier, get back the Fetch. Is just really strong.
Against like Delver or something, that's not a bad play at all.
Yeah. Nice. Were there many other cards you tested out that just didn't really make the cut?
I didn't actually do that much extra stuff. I'll see if I can pull up my... I don't know if I even kept my older lists, because I kind of just messed around. But, like, most of the cards were just based off of other people's lists, and then I tried them, and then it was good. Like, I'm the one who... Like, Harry was already playing Rallier, and I put in Excavator instead, because I was like, I like Excavator. And then I tried Rallier after, and I was like, this is better. unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
I'm definitely
and
also
then
another
that's kind
Raminep
of how it
fan.
goes.
But when you play Rallier, like, ooh, it turns on so many cool lines as well. And like, not cool lines that are
Yeah,
just like gimmicky, but like cool lines that also just have the value that sometimes you need. Like, getting back the Bowmaster or something like that. So yeah, I've been
yeah,
really impressed by it. Yeah, big shout out to Harry as well. He's been championing Abzan for a while as well, which is cool to see. Speaking of
yeah.
Abzan, one question I always find it kind of tricky that players ask me is like they give you a local metagame and they go, should I be playing Abzan or Naya? And I never really know like what is better. Because when you think of like Blast and Thoughtseize, there is some crossover. When you think of like Punishing Fire or like Bowmaster and Plague Engineer, there's some crossover. But it's always tough to say like, oh, you play against X, Y, and Z, then you should play Naya. Or if you play against like ABC, then it's definitely Abzan.
Yeah, I think there's a. I think most of it's personal preference. I think I do think Absint's just better, especially right now with Bowmasters. I don't think it's really like possible to to try and argue it from the other side. The only metas where like uh, Naya would be better, and that's I'm assuming you're playing Punishing Fire in Naya.
Yeah.
Would be like where it's all fucking blue, like and it's like control blue decks
Yeah.
because that's where having like because the Naya build it grinds out pretty hard,
Yeah.
but
Especially
like
Minsk.
every other matchup, yeah, exactly. Like Mixed and Boo is the reason to play Naya in my opinion, and that card
Mm,
is fucking great. That's a really good card,
yeah.
but like it's like that's it really, and it's a 4 drops that you're playing, so you really it's I don't know, it's got to be really good.
Yeah. The one thing that
So
I do like about the red decks with blast effects is that blast can either be reaction spell or you can be proactive with it, whereas Thoughtseize is always kind of like proactive and you're kind of always trading a mana for them, not spending mana. But typically it's
yeah,
buying you time to like, deploy like a Thalia or something else just to keep you in the game. So typically against like the combo decks, I don't find that value get it the
oh
game doesn't get to the
yeah.
stage where that value actually matters. It's just like a
Well, in
case of
fact,
like trying to live.
yeah, and Thoughtseize is just better against combo in like every situation, unless you're against Sneak and Show, the 3 Sneak and Show players that are left. I think you know. Other than that, you want Thoughtseize. It is way better than Blast against the Storm decks, against Reanimator, all that stuff. It's not even close.
Yeah.
So in terms of mana, and yeah, in those cases, the mana doesn't matter. You just want to get to turn 2, and that's what Thoughtseize does.
Yeah. Nice. Last thing about the deck was flex spots. Obviously, with lands and creatures, there's been a few that have gone in and out. We spoke recently or just before about Galactic kind of being a card you want in the main deck, but kind of just has to be in the board for now. Are there any cards that you
Yeah.
would say, like, if you're going to Eternal Weekend, are there any kind of, is the Scooze more of a flex than, say, Collector Ouphe?
Well, everything's more of a flex than Collector Ouphe because that's
Yes.
the card that just wins the game
Yeah.
against some matchups. But Scooz is good. I actually because Eternal Weekend, Legolas Quick Reflexes is gonna be out. I have like a list that I've kind of made on Moto where I have Blossoming Defense instead, just so I can
Nice.
see it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
cool.
and in that one, I brought the Scribback main and moved the Palace Jailer to the board, and then I also cut the Endurance and my put in a 4th Knight, and then I just had to cut like Once Upon a Time, a Bowmaster, and a Mother of Runes to play 3 of those main deck, and I don't know. I want to try it. We'll see if it sucks. I wish I didn't have to cut all the good cards, but I don't know what else to cut.
Yeah,
So
it's tough because I would say this is a protection spell, which kind of fits the
it
same
is, yeah.
slot as Mum, but it's also really good with Mum. But at the same time, you don't want to have like too many of those effects in the deck. That it definitely makes sense that that's where you cut it.
Yeah, and it's just I don't know. The thing is, it's also kind of a removal spell, but we're not cutting any plows, so What I
Yeah.
did was I play paths in the board sometimes, and right now I'm on one path. Is instead of hat, I don't have a path in the board because I'm assuming that across 7 pseudo removal spells I should be fine.
Yes. Yeah, it's just crazy to me that this has split second.
It is pretty
Especially with hexproof. Yeah.
awesome. It is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So obviously, as a Maverick player, you're a fan. I know that Sam is a fan, who's the Infect player from Europe, and I know like a few Depths players have been thinking about it as well.
Yeah, you want my thoughts on Infect with this card? I'm gonna call it LQR, by the way, because it's such a mouthful.
Okay. Yep. Yes. Nice. LQL.
Yeah, but I think that Infect as a deck is not very good right now, and I think it's still not going to be very good with this because for everybody who didn't play blue, LQR is essentially Vines of Vastwood. Like it really, like, the split second is not going to matter unless I already had multiple removal spells and the mana to cast it, and I didn't do it on my turn, which is like all things that you would never do against Infect. And the other thing that's the problem is ever since that they changed every Infect creature to have Phyrexian, like, Plague Engineer just is the game. It's game over.
Yeah.
Infect can obviously always still win if you have turn 1 Glistener Elf and then like double days, I don't know, whatever random shit that they do.
Yeah.
Like, especially with the scale up being like, with that they only need 2 pump spells to kill you. Like, it's definitely, it can win, but I just think the consistency of that type of opener is not there. And then as soon as you get past like turn 3 or 4, you're feeling amazing against, like, as every other deck, I think.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see like which decks try this out that people might not have thought of early on, but it definitely makes sense in other Reliquary decks. And then I can definitely see people trying it out in decks like Infect.
They should. I do think it's a strict upgrade to Vines of Vastwood, by the way. It's just like, I don't think that it meaningfully changes the non-blue matchups. It's gonna make, like, they should be better against the blue decks because it split second's awesome. But,
Yes.
yeah, I think we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Have you seen much of the 40k cards, or do you know about many of the 40k cards that aren't on Magic Online that might show up at Eternal Weekend?
I've seen. So one of my friends plays Jeskai Control with Triumph of St. Catherine.
Nice. Yeah.
And then I have not seen anybody play Mawloc, but other than those two, I haven't seen much.
Okay. Chaos Defiler?
I googled that card because I saw it, but like I don't actually think it'll be good.
Okay, no, that's
I've
fair.
never seen it in a deck, even paper. I haven't played a lot of paper, but
no, that's fair. I think
I don't feel like it's 5 mana, so it's supposed to be like for reanimation or something, like.
Yes, but not in the deck you probably think about.
Deck that's in black and green. I'm not sure where it would be played.
Painter with Goblin Welder. So some people have been playing this out with, I guess Goblin Welder. Oh, really?
Let me check my own sound again. This is gonna be awesome. Oh yeah, my sound works.
Nice, but you can't hear me?
And I can still see your screen. I don't know if it's
Interesting. All right, 1 second.
Yeah.
So I have seen some players in paper play this as a one-of in Painter and have pretty good success with it as a Goblin Welder target.
Well, okay, yeah. I guess in that context, it could be good. I don't know. I think Painter. I normally basically just worry about Painter because the rest of the deck kind of doesn't do much, and then you want to kill Goblin Welder anyways. Like, from the Maverick perspective, it's just like, if they're looping anything with Goblin Welder, that really sucks. So, and luckily we have like 8 ways to kill it main deck with the list I have here.
Yes.
And then post board is even more. So.
Yeah, and then also ways not to worry about it with things like Scavenging Ooze, which is always really nice.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, I think, at least for me, this card is not going to come up much. But
do you have any
with decks that can't interact as well? It could be good.
Yeah, That's true, because like, especially when you think of like the Saga package, we have Wasteland, so you don't always have to worry about like Saga getting out of hand, which is nice. And then if Ooze can take care of the goblins, then you just have all your removal for the combo as well, which is really nice. So I feel like if the deck plays out in the way it should, which sometimes it doesn't have that consistency, Painter should be a pretty solid matchup.
Yeah, I would say it feels like it is. Like you say that, and then next time you play against it, they have like double grindstone, double painter, and you lose. But like,
Yeah,
I think on average it should be pretty good for us.
yeah. Do you have any thoughts for like breakout cards for Eternal Weekend? Maybe not the question for you, just because you haven't been in the format for that long, but do you think there's like a clear card that you think will be like most played?
Well, other than all the usual suspects of brainstorm and stuff, I think like Bowmaster is gonna still be insane.
Yes.
But in terms of like other recent cards, I have no idea. I expect, I do think in general, like for the metagame, it's gonna be a lot of like silly, just like Beanstalk decks and Death and Taxes, because those are just upsetting to play against.
Yeah. When you say,
I think Bowmaster and Beanstalk are probably going to be the most annoying cards that are going to define it, perhaps.
yeah, those were definitely my two picks. But yeah, I thought we would quickly go over sideboarding, and if you have any kind of like upfront. Actually, sorry, one last thing I wanted to go over when talking about tutors in the deck and kind of silver bullets for lands and creatures is the double up on Canopy and Nurturing Peatland, where some players play like a second Bayou.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much, unless I start playing like a way more black cards, I'm not playing two Bayou. You guys are gonna take any other card out of my cold dead hands. In paper, nice. I play a third Savannah right now, actually, because I just don't have a Peatland yet.
Okay, that's fair.
But I'm not sure if I would prefer it or not. But like the problem is that like black just isn't that important. So if you have a hand where it's like Bayou, Wasteland, Green Sun Zenith, like that's kind of sketchy if you don't have a white source, right? But like you can keep a hand with Savannah and that.
Yeah, very true. Yeah,
so,
usually
and like
I was just gonna say that
like the long con like situation where it's like, oh, I'm out of black sources. Like you still have the same amount if you play Peatland. You just have to get a knight and play to get it. It's possible, guys.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, I would say as well that black isn't a card you necessarily need straight away either. But white could be with things like Thalia swords.
Exactly,
Orc's kind of a luxury in that point. Like if you have an Orc and have a black source, that's great. But I think, traditionally I'm much happier to get like the Savannah mana online first. And also just having the extra Peatland can sometimes be nice to have like a second way to draw a card if you really need to try to get another spell in your hand.
Yeah, or even just increasing the odds of you drawing one. Like I like a Canopy because it does. We run out of gas, and sometimes it's good. Although I feel like whenever I have like a Canopy in play and I need to crack it, I always just draw another land. So I don't know how important it is.
Yeah, or like a Noble Hierarch. You're like, wow, okay.
Yeah,
I get it.
Our deck doesn't actually like draw that well.
Yes.
Like, unless it's runner Green Sun, which is sick, and you do that to people in paper, and they're like, "What?
Yes,
that's illegal."
I do like the double forest and plains. I really like against a wasteland deck like Delver, kind of just turning other lands into somewhat of a lotus petal, and just making sure you can get like 3 mana into play that can't be interacted with is really nice.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. I always like it felt like that was stock for Abzan pretty much for as long as I remember. Like the only time that I ever went down to 1 forest, 1 plains was when I was splashing for Leovold and I had a Trop instead. And in green white though, you can play it for like 4 basics, which is really cool. But
yes, I remember end of 2022, Thomas Herzog had a 5-0 with like 3 forest, 2 plains, and I was like, wow, 5 basics. This guy's old school.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the Delver matchup for that has to be really, really good.
Yes. I guess with like, if I was to categorize Legacy quite generally in like control, combo, Delver, and like mid-range, are there any like sideboarding like brushes you kind of have against those decks or those strategies?
Yeah, so against well, I guess against control, since they all play blue, you bring in all our anti-blue cards. So the pretty much all the green cards in my sideboard are for blue,
Yeah.
and then there's also a Gaea that comes in against control.
Yeah.
And then you basically board out removal, so you take out some plows, take out some. If I bring in three Thoughtseize and Gaea, I let myself cut a couple once upon a times
Okay.
because I don't know, I'm too lazy trying to figure out how to figure like the actual boarding because I feel
Yeah.
like that's probably not great. But the other thing is I would trim a dork if it's like pure basics control like Jeskai. You can trim a Wasteland as well there. But yeah, you'll want to bring in basically just all the cards that are good against blue and have flash and stuff, and then Thoughtseize as well. Just is a good against control.
Yeah. Yeah.
Against
Even just knowing how to
mid-range.
navigate your hand is quite nice.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right. Even like the information's great, but then like we just don't have an answer to many things. So being able to get rid of it. Yeah,
One.
against like mid-range stuff, I would say. Is there more for control? Is there a secret? I'm ready.
No, I was gonna say. I think players are definitely opening themselves up to Galactic a lot more now with cards like Prismatic Ending, Leyline Binding, Supreme Verdict,
Yeah.
like Fourth Lingus. Usually it's Swords and Dress Down that I worry about. Dress
Yeah.
Down the big one because that also turns off Mum, but there's a lot of worlds where Teague just kind of is like a meddling mage for like 4 cards in their hand.
Yeah, no, T is awesome, and it's so so upsetting that Dress Down is a card that exists because it's
Yes.
absolutely insane. I don't know. I have many thoughts about that card design.
Yeah.
The fact that like even if you know about it and have the opportunity, there's nothing you can actually do to play around it is the most insane thing to me.
Yeah. Even
Um,
like Liberator gets turned off. You can't even blow it up.
yeah, right. So like I don't know. It's absolutely crazy to me.
Yeah.
But Galactic in general is still awesome, and if they don't have Dress Down, you're good. And that's in post board you can Thoughtseize, and that's normally what you take is the Dress Down,
Yeah.
and then hopefully everything works out in the end.
Nice. Cool. I cut you off before mid range.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, so against mid range, it would be if it's a blue mid range deck, which I don't know. I guess you kind of count. It wouldn't be Delver though. Delver you'd have to board differently, but
Yeah.
against for example, that weird Beanstalk list that was just like playing creatures.
Yeah.
You bring in all the blue stuff still, but you also normally against mid range you want your Path to Exile and then like Plague Engineer. If we're counting Death and Taxes as mid range, you kind of bring in a bunch more stuff. I'm not sure. Do you have any good examples of what you consider mid range other than I guess like Maverick? But
Yeah. Probably like the Uro style, kind of like either rug or 4-color decks. Typically relying on, I guess they're semi-control. Probably other Maverick decks. Funnily enough, I would probably say Depth against Maverick is more of a mid-range deck than a combo deck. They're typically trying to just play a bit more of a longer game.
like green white depths.
Yeah, and then also
Yeah.
Abzan, which has come about with the printing of Orcish Bowmasters.
Yeah.
Lands.
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah, Lands is kind of always in its own little place for me, where it's so unique compared to everything else.
8-cast
like
is the other one, but I think 8-cast is a pretty nice matchup, especially with Bowmaster now as well. That's just extra interaction.
Yeah, I'm. 8cast is so free, and then I played against it in the first round of the showcase, and like I just drew badly. I made like 2-3 mistakes, so I lost. But like it felt so bad to wake up in the morning after doing a bunch of shit the day before, and then you get the best matchup I would say probably for Maverick right now.
Yeah.
And then you lose, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I knew it was gonna be a bad day after that. So yeah, 8 casts, and then yeah, I don't know, for the also if you're curious for the boarding, it's pretty. I don't know. You just bring in the cards that do things. So like in that case, you want paths. Engineer is actually sick because you can block the construct as
Kappa?
well.
Oh yeah, okay, yep.
And yeah, you can't really block it. That's why you have to save your swords and stuff for the Kappa.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, I wouldn't bring in endurance because Scooze is normally good enough. Um,
Yeah. I think my big tip for players against 8 cast is like Karakas is easily your best answer to Emery, which means that you don't really have to worry about their graveyard as a resource.
yeah, I would say in general with Emery, you want to figure out like if you can't kill it or like get a Scooze, which is the best move against Emery, then like yeah, you really want to try and exhaust all options that are not swordsing it because you literally like with the ward of 4 on Kappa, like you really need your plow for that.
Yes. Yeah. And definitely note that like a bauble on either turn will kill an Emery with your Bowmaster, which is really nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's good. Bowmaster's really good. Just
And obviously, we haven't
matchup.
even mentioned Ouphe yet, but obviously, game 1, like turn 2 Ouphe is just pretty fun.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah, no, yeah, Oof is essentially you want to keep hands that have Oof in them or Green Sun, and you're gonna want to use the Green Sun for the Oof.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, very rarely. But the other card that is actually also really good is Outland Liberator because they actually kind of run out of gas sometimes, and then you can just attack and kill the Saga and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I do love Liberator. Yeah, D&T, like, I think Thalia is an easy cut, but then I get a little bit, I never really know where to go from there. Like, Questing Beast has its moments, obviously against the deck with so many Karakas, it's usually not that great.
Yeah, you still got to keep it in though.
Yeah, because it like gets through Mum. It's just such a good attack, especially in Vigilance as well. Jailer is another one. Like, I find that you bring in a lot of like creature hate, so typically you can control the board, but sometimes they do just have like, you know, a Solitude or a Flickwisp to fly in with, that it can be pretty tricky to sometimes get it back from them.
Yeah, I think like Jailer, you just need as much ways to kind of grind out as possible against DNT. I will say I haven't lost to DNT in games where I've resolved Kaya Ghost Assassin.
Nice, yes.
Because like it's just so so good. But yeah, in terms of cuts, yeah, it's Thalia's. I would maybe cut some onces, especially now that the black white DNT like with the 80 cards, the mana pressure is not really there. Like they maybe draw one Wasteland, maybe two if it's really a whatever. But
Yeah.
they don't see it that often, and you don't need to care too much. But
Yeah. Especially for the kind of newer builds, which are getting a bit more like grindy, where Wasteland's tapping for
yeah.
mana a lot of the time on their end.
Yeah, it's very the deck is super like, and that's the problem, right? And that's why we need to board for it. And the one of the reasons why Questing Beast is, I think, mandatory still, even post board, is because it sucks if they have Karakas, but we have Wastelands. But the actual thing is because like our win con is at killing them quickly before they get to resolve like Yorion and other dumb stuff. So like it's the fastest way to kill them. And it gets through all their blockers or forces chumps. It's really, it's really good.
Yeah, which is tough because they grind so well, but also probably the most scariest openings are like on the play, Mother into Stoneforge into Cauldron.
Literally, yeah.
And then you just have this attacker that it's really hard to like get through if you're trying to attack. But then also, obviously, as a defender, it's very hard to
and
get
like
on top
late
of.
game, like if the Cauldron gets into play, it feels horrible. I think your win percent goes down to like nothing basically.
Yeah.
Because even if you kill the token, which is not the end of the world, and it's hard still because it takes our best removal spells to do it.
Yeah.
But then like late game, like if they draw a Flicker Wisp or if they just get to 5 mana and play Yorion, like you have to deal with it again, and it's crazy.
Yes. I would say Depths is typically a pretty solid matchup. They only have so many creatures in like Knight and Reclaimer that Swords is usually doing a lot of work. And I do find that probably Sylvan Safekeeper is the card that usually wins games that I lose to, if they kind of go a little bit wide on mana early on and then just have a Safekeeper that's unable to be hit. But in a version like this with, main deck Plague Engineer and Bowmasters to go after it pretty aggressively, I think overall both versions of Depths in Naya and Abzan are probably pretty favored.
Yeah, you mean both versions of Maverick against Depths?
Yes, sorry. I think the only scary things out of Depths are like the turn 1 mocks into Library and then just kind of pay a bunch of life to keep the board clean and just like control the board early on and gain an advantage that way. Because
I think Bowmaster is good to have, but I don't know. Honestly, the Depths matchup I don't know a lot about because I've played a decent amount of games since I came back, and I don't know if I've actually played against it since I came back. I've played against Maverick twice though, so
that's cool.
I guess the people are on our side for once, or at least my side for once.
Nice. Hey.
But I see you playing Depths. I don't know.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't want to make any assumptions for what you prefer right now. But
that's definitely a topic I'll talk about at the end for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I actually think probably against Depths, like also for boarding, obviously Thalia is cut against every non-blue deck.
Yeah.
And I would probably trim some Bowmasters because you just like, other than the one of Safekeeper, it doesn't kill things. I think my rule against like non-blue decks with Bowmaster is if you can kill something with the ETB, then it's probably worth keeping in. But otherwise, it's just we don't need 2 vanilla creatures against Depths. We want to play our own Knights and stuff. So
yeah, it's a good one. I think I'd probably just bring in I don't mind the Scrib Ranger because like Mum and Knight are both very good to untap, and just mana in general is quite good.
For sure, Scrib comes in,
The path.
That's a little rule there for Scrib too. Is if Knight is good, bring Scrib in as well. And then obviously if they're playing blue, bring Scrib in. But, yeah.
Have you ever? I only recently caught on to the fact that with Scrib Ranger against Cephalid Breakfast, you can kind of manipulate what they can do. I've been able to hit a Cephalid Illusionist with the untap ability in response to a Stoneforge, and it milled the Cauldra.
Oh, that's
which is pretty funny. And then even little things like before they go for like a Saga trigger, like just trying to like mill something into the bin is pretty cool. But if you do have a way to like get the combo, at least like stop the combo, but have a Scrib in play, there are times where like you can go after their deck in a way that they don't want the stuff going into the bin. And it's just something I didn't really pick up on with like Illusionist, Swording, and Scrib Ranger.
Yeah, it hasn't really that has not come up. But no, it's a cool like line. It is like hopefully you hit the good stuff, but I don't know. I wonder if it's worth bouncing a land. It really depends on the board state probably.
Yeah, that's very true. Cephalid is an interesting one because again it's kind of that like combo / mid-range deck that typically I always lose the early games to the combo, but then they also just have like the Saga or the Cauldra kind of plan game 2 and 3.
Yeah. Thoughtseize is great in that case because it's good against both of the plans.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why I think Abzan's better than Naya.
It's tough to have like a hand of blasts and then just go for like the Stoneforge line. You're like, okay, well, that's it's kind of like a mull to 5.
Basically, yeah. I wonder. I'm not sure against a lot of the kind of half graveyard decks. I never know to bring in Leyline. I kind of debate it back and forth. Like even against Scam, I've tried it, and I don't. The thing is, the math on it seems like it should be good because if I'm bringing in 3 cards and it turns off 8 cards for them, like that should be good. But then because they're blue, it doesn't count because they just put it away or force
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really figure it out. But against Breakfast, I feel like you probably want Leyline because of like the fact that when I don't find the grind plan is that bad. Like
Yeah.
Stoneforge is the big problem. That's the, like obviously Kaldra does kill you. Everything else, it's kind of
Yeah.
like it's just really bad creatures most of their deck.
Yeah.
So
That's the thing.
it's really
I find the grind plan isn't the threat. The threat is that I am in a position where I have to use my removal on the grind plan, and then they just combo you out.
Yeah,
And that's always
exactly.
the tricky part.
That's the worst part, and that's why I would just as long as you keep in Jailer, all your removal, and your Grist, you're should be okay against the grind. But yeah, I'd probably obviously I mean, Hushbringer's sick there too.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Gaddock stops the like
Dread Return.
combo. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, Hushbringer hitting both Stoneforge and also like Oracle is very relevant.
It's insane. I could not be more. I always thought Hushbringer was just like goofy, like people like overreacting and thinking that it matters more than it does. But like it hits so many things randomly that it's like it is actually such a broad and good sideboard card, which is why at Eternal Weekend, since I'm cutting the path, I'll probably be playing 2 Hushbringer.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. Speaking of kind of like combo, you mentioned before that you're not a big fan of Mindbreak Trap, and one of the reasons that I play it online is that I just typically find I play against a lot of combo, so it's kind of a necessary evil. But I think for a tournament like Eternal Weekend, I'm probably happy to lose the matchups where Trap would be relevant. Like if you're going to win on turn 0 or turn 1, like that's fine. I'm not kind of ready for that. But if you do get to turn 2, like then we have a plan going. So I do really like that. Do you find like you're kind of like, are there any matches that you're going to sit down against and be like, okay, if they're on this deck, then that's fine. I'm probably, a near sort of 0% chance.
I don't like being in that position in general. I feel like even against like Oops or something, as long as you have Thoughtseize and Leylines on the board, you have a decent shot post board. In
That's
game 1,
true.
you're not going to have Mindbreak Trap anyways, so like it's really like I try and build my deck like it's okay, like obviously you can't have not everything can be a good matchup, or else I mean maybe secretly Maverick just only have good matchups. I don't know, guys, but that's actually, that shouldn't be the goal.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting that you mentioned Leyline, because now when I think of Leyline against say Oops or spells, it kind of is like a Deafening Silence and a Mindbreak Trap in one, because it stops them from going off, and it probably stops them from casting multiple spells a turn, unless they're on some sort of alternate, like Belcher or Empty post board.
Yeah, and those are normally pretty okay to deal with, especially with Engineer, which you'll keep in.
Yeah,
but Belcher's not the greatest, but you want to get Ouphe anyways. If you have something to deal with the graveyard, Ouphe should be the next one because it stops Belcher and half their mana stuff. Like
yes, that's a great point. And then like Ant and Tess, I typically put under the same. I'm not really boarding differently. Sometimes I think about Leyline if I have cards to take out against Ant. Not so much against Tess, because usually it's just Rider Flame, maybe Echo.
I think Leyline, it really depends on what cards you're playing in the main, because there's a decent amount of stuff you could cut. Like, we don't need that many Knight of the Reliquaries. We don't need necessary, like Grist, for example, is a cut that I always forget to take out, but like it's not good in that matchup.
Yeah.
Outland Liberators mid, like it's I don't know. You're never green setting for it. You just get Ouphe.
Yeah.
So it really depends on how many cuts you have. Like Mom is always it's kind of a debate because like they do bring in some removal, so you kind of want to keep them, but at the same time, if you turn 1 Mom, you don't have enough to turn 2 Green Sun, so there's
that's
a
a great point.
of tension. Oh yeah, Palace Jailer gets cut too. Like all the so many random cards as you look at the deck more are like, this probably isn't actually that good.
Yeah.
And then you kind of just want something that has some text on it. Like in terms of killing them, that's not the problem. We just need as many cards that they have to deal with as possible.
Yeah.
If we could play mono hate bears, we would there.
Yes. Yeah. What about Delver?
Oh yeah, Delver. I think it's pretty even right now with Bowmasters. I'm pretty happy with it in general. The Rug Delver I think is actually good for us. I think we're pretty favored. But
Yeah. Is that like the slower version with like DRC, but then just like Hooting Mantles and Murktides?
the one with like Questing Druid. I
Questing
don't know.
Druid. Yeah,
I mean, every Delver plays Murktide because that card's
that's true.
insane.
Yeah.
Card's doing a lot more.
And I guess
lifting than
DRC
anything
as
else.
well. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know if they like. I think I might have seen someone play Hooting Mandrills, and you could see it like I could experience just how funny it is. Like in compare, like it's like, oh, they're tapping out. What could it be? And then it's a Mandrill. You're like, oh, sick.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about this card.
Yeah. Like it's not that hard to get a 5/5 Knight down, or even a 5/5 Fiend Artisan.
Yeah, yeah, no. The fact that it doesn't fly and it's only a 4/4, it really like that is when you really experience the power creep, is like when you see the mandrills go down and you're like, wow, I just don't care.
Yeah. But it draws a card. Connery could draw 2 cards. Who knows?
Only if you're playing Beanstalk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think in general the Delver decks, like especially like the black ones are pretty close between us because we're both on Bowmasters, and like they might have some engineers in the board as well, and then so that's more of like what you want to be careful of, and then it changes the boarding a bit because the bonus when you're just against Rug Delvers, you can actually like on the play you can keep in maybe a Thalia, but and you definitely want to keep all your moms in, but against the black you still probably keep the moms in, but you're just sad because sometimes they'll kill them, and it's way easier for them to kill the moms, so it's tough. But against Delver in general, I think the boarding is pretty straightforward for me. It's that you cut Collector Ouphe, Outland Liberator against like even Black Delver. I cut the Engineer because you don't want too many 3-drops.
Yeah, I was gonna say there is an appeal, especially with like sometimes Bowmaster, but you also just have your Bowmaster as like a mini Plague Engineer, and you have 3 of them, and they actually do something a bit more than that. So
yeah, exactly.
I can definitely see why.
Yeah, basically, yeah, I bring in all the green cards in my sideboard except Gaddock plus the Path, so it's Path, Scrib, Endurance, Choke, and Carpet, and then I cut Engineer, Liberator, Ouphe, and then both Thalias. And this is what I would do definitely on the draw. On the play, depending on Delver, maybe I keep in a Thalia.
Nice.
I used to also cut a Dork for the Carpet, but now I'm just like, man, no, I always want the mana, so
yeah.
Yeah.
Carpet is a card that I've definitely come around to, and it's just opened my eyes to how powerful it is.
Yeah. There's a match where I was like super dead, basically. But I did have a Carpet in play, and I was like, okay. I forget exactly. Like, I had maybe a Green Sun, and I was like, I need to draw Endurance and then be able to play the Endurance and like Green Sun for something. And I could do it because I had 4 islands in play, so I just did everything in one turn. Oh, it was Fiend Artisan. So I had I think I had a Cradle too in play, but they had a Murktide or something, and I'm like, okay, I need to get like my Endurance in play, and I need to have enough to activate Fiend Artisan, and just having like huge mana is really good in this build too, because Fiend Artisan's a great use of your mana.
Yeah. Fiend is sweet. Initiative is one that I think a few people will be playing at Eternal Weekend, and I've found it quite tricky because they usually get the initiative probably at latest on turn 2. Like they can mulligan pretty aggressively for it and get it down pretty quickly as well. Or even 4th Erlingus is hard to sometimes combat.
Yeah, initiative's another example of Wizards taking like something that was already not great and then keeping the worst parts of it and just making it somehow worse, because like they took Monarch, which at least with Monarch, if you had multiple cards that gave you the Monarch, they didn't stack, right? It wasn't awesome. But with Initiative, it's like, oh, sick. I have 3 Initiative cards. This is awesome because I just want to continue having the Initiative anyways. And the fact that it pushes it forward a turn basically is I think, quite silly.
Yeah.
I don't find it actually like horrible. I think it's pretty draw dependent for sure, but I don't like, I'm not upset when I see Initiative, although I do like lose to it sometimes.
Yeah, I find I've always found it's one of those grindy matchups where you never feel great just because of the power of the creatures they're playing compared to yours, but you can sometimes like narrowly get out of it, which is nice.
Yeah, and Hushbringer's great again here.
Yes, even turning off Solitude is a big one as well, which really puts a lot of pressure on them finding Swords to Plowshares to remove it.
Yeah, and it's also just like having a lifelink flyer is just nice to have.
Yes, with Exalted especially.
Yep.
Yeah. This is probably still a matchup where you keep in Ouphe.
I'm not sure. It's definitely possible. Like I don't think it'd be wrong. I wish I had actually mapped out the sideboard and stuff, but I really haven't. I'm like every match I'm like, yeah, I'll try it, see what I can do.
Yeah.
And I just like go card by card. When I play in paper, what I actually do, if anyone wants the secrets to not winning in major events, but I actually go through my deck and I just take out every card that's like bad or medium, and then I go into my sideboard and figure out how many cards are good, and then I like make those numbers match up. So it's funny in paper right now, or well, last week I finally got my Fiend Artisans and Grist in paper,
Nice.
but I was on Stoneforge still, so it's like you play against lands and you're like, wow, I have so much shit to take out.
Yes.
Because it's the whole package. The Bowmasters suck, Thalias, and it's like I'm bringing in like 9 cards in a matchup that's already awesome. But yeah, so I don't know. The in terms of actually like playing against Initiative, with as long as you have a hand with like some good removal and like some like a knight is actually pretty great. I think it's pretty doable, but yeah, sometimes you just kind of get boned, and like that's the nature of Stompy decks, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's always tough with Wasteland against that deck as well, because sometimes Wasteland's very good at taking out a soul land, but then sometimes it's like the land you need just to be able to untap with say like 3 mana.
Yeah.
So that can be tricky.
Yeah. No, they're so fast. It's really hard. Unless the Wastelands, like if you're on the play, Wasteland might be more reasonable, but I think it's on the draw. It's really hard to try and fight them on mana because like they already have shit in play. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really dicey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it more, and I don't think I'd probably leave Ouphe in. I'm not sure though. Like I have to think about it a little bit more. But
Yeah. I think if you knew you could go after their mana and you were like very if you're gonna play in a way where you're like heavy on Wastelands or like obviously trying to go for the Ouphe, but you're probably trying to go for like a Fiend into Hushbringer, most likely if you have a Green Suns.
Or just like a knight. Like if you can get knights in play, you're in a pretty good spot because our knights are still bigger than their creatures.
Yeah.
I actually like Scrib Ranger as well. Endurance is good because it blocks all their flyers too. Or I don't know if they have more than just Archon, but it blocks Archon well and can attack.
Yes. Yeah, because does Archon make your creatures come in tapped?
Lands. It makes your lands come in tapped, I think. I don't think creatures.
Each player non-basic lands. Yeah, okay, cool. I was gonna say because you could flash in Archon Endurance and then untap it with Scrib Ranger, but there's no need.
That'd be extra, but yeah.
That
but
is
I don't know.
cool.
Ouphe would definitely not be bad though, but I don't know. I'm looking at it and I'm not sure. It's you basically maybe cut some Bowmasters instead, because Bowmasters not great. Like Thalias are obviously out, and then you want to keep your 4-drops in this case because again, it's a very like matchup where creatures matter, combat matters, and Questing Beast and Palace Jailer are really good.
Yeah. Yeah. One last one that I think is worth noting is Death Shadow or Blue-Black Scam, which I think is probably a deck that a lot of grinders or non-legacy members would pick up just to play in Eternal Weekend.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of modern players at grind would probably like Blue-Black Scam as like a pretty straightforward blue deck that has a pretty good record online. That's where like I think the extra path is really nice because dealing with Troll early on is really good. Overall, I think it's a pretty solid matchup. Troll can be annoying when they have like Force or Days to back it up, but I feel like we have enough ways. And Murktide, yeah. They really, there's not many, like, their Bowmasters you can deal with. Your Bowmasters, Plague isn't as great of a Death Touch creature because you have to block with multiple creatures on both Grist, Grief and also Troll.
Troll's tough in general. Like, that's Troll and Murktide are the big problems. The actual like just like Grief, reanimate Grief line isn't too bad. It's just like whatever their follow up is normally the problem.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The matchup, like our cards are still pretty good in it, and you just kind of have to. I think that's probably the most 50-50 matchup in the way it feels at least right now, where it's just like it really depends on the draw and like there's a lot of ways you can mess up, and same for them. So I think that one's. I do expect that to be super common though, because it's just the type of deck people love to play, which, yeah, it works, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Do you have any closing thoughts? Have you played in an Eternal Weekend before?
Yeah. Not Legacy though, actually. I played in the 19 or 2021, where they had a modern one. I signed up for the Legacy as well, but there was a modern one, the only year that they did a modern one, and I top 8'd it, and then that meant so I couldn't play the Legacy, and then I lost in the first round of the modern one. So then I was just like, I just played side events on the day. I'm like, man, I literally, like, they're only halfway through the first round. I could have just made it in.
Yes.
It was unfortunate.
I saw this as well. You played a standard challenge in 2021.
That's, I guess, yeah, I could see it. Standard challenges are, like, super value. So
really?
You're bored. Yeah, because it's like there not a lot of people play them, so you basically always prize.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Like for online at least.
Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. Maverick's good, I think. It's actually crazy, dude. The amount of people that like meme on Maverick for being bad, it's really weird because like when I look. And when I lose games, like even the game that I lost in the showcase challenge, like I made the mistake. Like I didn't draw well, but I could have won both those games because I lost to 0-2 if I just didn't make mistakes. And I feel like most of the games that I lose, I can point to a mistake that lost me the game rather than there was nothing I could have done. Like I literally just my deck was bad. Very rarely does that happen with Maverick. I feel like it certainly does.
Reach.
Like obviously variance is huge, but like it really does. I don't know. I actually think Maverick right now especially has a lot of game against the big decks, and it's punishing. And I think the reason why people talk shit is because blue players are bad at playing decks where your decisions matter. They if you don't have a force of will to pitch the bad card you kept, you're stuck with it. And Maverick, you have to figure it out and you have to adapt to whatever you draw. Oh, I was also gonna say, I think in general for sideboarding with Maverick, you board really heavily. It's okay. We have lots of medium cards, so like it doesn't matter. Like the core of the deck doesn't really exist because it's just like. Well, like, the core is Green Sun and everything else around it. So it's okay to bring in 9 cards in almost every matchup because a lot of the times, like, you're going to need, like, Ouphe just doesn't do anything. So cut it. So I think that's big. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's actually good. I'm excited for the Legolas Quick Reflexes to come out and try and see if it's going to be a 3 of main or a 2 of or something.
Yeah. The one worrying thing that I have is that it's going to come out, I believe, pretty close to Eternal Weekend, So I assume it'll be a
Yeah.
pretty high price to fetch if you can find it, which is kind of
I
annoying.
pre-ordered it actually.
Nice. There
So
we go.
what's hilarious is in Canada. So I don't know. I'm not going to speak about it, other places, but for Canada, it's like the box that it comes in, like the like holiday scene box. Um, for some reason, a lot of the stores are only selling those in like the set of the 4 boxes. So that's like 200 Canadian.
Hmm.
Whereas because each box is like 50. But one store was selling the boxes for 50, and you could just buy the one. But then the one that had the Legolas Quick Reflexes was sold out, obviously. So I
Yes.
ended up spending 45 Canadian each online for the
That's pretty
Legolas Quick
good.
Reflexes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I'm not
45 is where
upset about it.
I've definitely seen it more than
But
45, so
exactly,
that's sweet.
yeah. But it's really funny to me that like that's almost the price of the box that it comes in with a bunch of other stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, but I think it comes out. I'm pretty sure it's this weekend. In paper, and then online it's like a week or two later.
The 14th, I
Let me check.
believe, it comes out online in treasure chests.
Yeah, yeah. I think it comes out this weekend because for some reason. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I can check my pre-order even.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm excited for that card. Split Second's gonna be fun, and Knight of the Reliquary being like good in every matchup is gonna be cool. So I'm
Yeah.
excited to play 4 Knights again and see if it's worth it.
Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to the one person that I play against online that didn't know it was a card. I cast it, and then you just see chat blow up. Like, what the hell is this? Of course they printed this.
But actually though, and honestly, on that note, playing Questing Beast in paper is amazing because no one. It's crazy to me because I play against like in my local events like the same people over like years, and they still read it and they still misplay. Like I do not understand what Questing Beast has going on. Like I know it's a lot of text, but people are incapable of getting to the end of it because like
Yeah.
they're always like, "Oh, what it does that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you read it. I saw you read the card. What happened?"
Yeah. Yeah, I think the best one online is against lands players who crop rotation for Mazavith, not Karakas.
Yeah,
That's probably the
yeah.
biggest learning curve. And obviously the most fun one, especially when it's dealing lethal. That's always the best part.
And it happens every time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had someone like on the Legacy that I was just at in paper. They read Questing Beast and then they mazed my other creature attacking, and I was like, it doesn't do anything to that one either. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That's even more hilarious if the creature was something like Knight that has like an activated ability.
Yeah, no, they didn't do that, but it would have been so funny.
Nice.
But yeah, they just conceded because it was over.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I sometimes tweet, and if I start streaming again, which might or might not happen, it's definitely not in the next month. I'm busy with grad school, but
yeah. Oh, one quick thing.
That would be where you would find out about it. Also,
you obviously like StarCraft.
I do like StarCraft, yeah.
And I know that D9 has talked about it, but do you find any crossover in like skills of StarCraft to Magic?
Like, honestly, not a lot. It's StarCraft for me, it's like, I mean, beyond like, I don't know, like the transferable skills of just like games, like just putting in time and like having good practice and stuff.
Yeah.
But like in terms of more specific things, there's really not a lot. Like it took me a long time to get pretty good at StarCraft, and I'm pretty good now. Well, not now because I stopped playing because I'm busy, but like I got to Masters 2, which is pretty hard, and a lot of it is just like just mastering the mechanics is like most of it, because the like decisions that you're making, they're nuanced. There's a lot of like you have to know which move to go, especially for Protoss. It's kind of like you have to basically counter the units. Yeah,
that's cool.
Protoss is the coolest race.
Whoa, but Terran,
like, the best
against their own people.
Terran's not the coolest race. I'm sorry. Terran is, I would argue, the least cool. But anyways, I would say most of my time was just getting fast enough, like getting to like and like not like people like spam stuff to try and just make the numbers go up, like getting actually fast and getting in good, like macro rhythms and stuff. So I feel like there's not a lot of overlap in terms of skills, but it's super fun. And when you're good at it, like it really, you're not even really playing the game until it's like diamond, and then you actually can make strategy decisions because you're not just losing because of your macro. Like there's a lot to it. It's sick.
Yeah, I think I'm currently playing against like bots, but I believe it's like a brutal level, so it's pretty good. I'm getting there, but yeah, definitely nowhere near playing against someone else who actually plays the game. But yeah, Day9 said something very interesting. He said, Magic's a game where you have a lot more time to think about your options, whereas with StarCraft, it's better to make a bad decision quickly and then try to fix it over time, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it's true, because it's very, like, StarCraft 2 in particular is so fast. Like, it's faster than every other RTS 2, and it's not actually close. Like, it's arguably too fast, but it's really fun. But it's so much about, you can take a little bit of time to make your decisions, but you just can't stop playing. Like, you have to keep macroing, you have to keep controlling stuff while you're making the decision, and that's what makes it hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a, like, that's the game. It's the only game that, like, I still, like, when I play, like, after, like, even just, like, a 10-minute game, which is a bit over the average length, like, I'm sweaty after. Like, you just can't.
Nice, yeah.
You cannot play it calm. It's so intense.
I feel like you nearly get a couple tongue from playing it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I think the ergonomics of my setup's pretty good. I use the also, like, for the keyboard, I use the core setup that I think some Koreans use.
Nice.
So, like, I don't have to move my left hand ever. It's set up.
That's cool. With your keys.
Yeah. So you use, like, control and shift a lot with your thumb.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I cannot play with, like, anywhere in any of the other hotkeys now. Like, and people, like, there's actually some debate over whether the core is better, but, like, I cannot believe people play without it. It's so much worse playing on a different hotkey setup because your hand's always moving around. You have to, like, you're gonna misclick, like hit the wrong key way more times. I think it's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, a huge thank you for coming on, and yeah, best of luck at Eternal Weekend. Which you are? Thanks. Are you? You're playing? You are playing. Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to the Pittsburgh.
Nice. Hopefully it sells out.
Yeah. I already bought my, like, main event, like, the Legacy Champs.
Very nice.
Although it's expensive this year, but, you know, it's going to be exciting and a good time.
Yeah, and then when you top 8, it'll all be worth it.
Exactly. Well, I've been telling everyone I'll win it, so.
Nice. There we go.
We gotta shoot high.
Look, if you win it, I'll organize something.
Oh yeah, hell yeah. But yeah, thanks for having me on. Also,
you're welcome. Obviously, people can find you on Twitter at Achillies27 and also within the Maverick Discord. And then hopefully, if you ever come back streaming at twitch.tv/Achillies27.
That would be it. Yeah, and yeah, we'll see. Maybe in the winter when things calm down. It's a busy year.
Yes. Cool. Thank you again. Thank you to all those who watched until the end as well. We'll catch you next time.